Hi, this is Amy Magyar at FromWithin Coaching, and today on CliftonStrengths Unpacked, we are unpacking learner. So right away, either two things happened. You have a learner in your life or you are a learner. And if you were a learner, you got really excited because we're about to educate you. And all of the sparkles just went, ooh, I get to learn something. So we couldn't be happier to be unpacking learner today. And as always, I have Coach Augusta Goodcrawl with me today as both
Good morning.
a facilitator, but also a guest because you also have learner.
I do. That's my number
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, learner and input. So we'll talk a little bit about that because there's
Oh
always some
boy.
confusion between input and learner and intellection. And so it'll
Yes,
be fun to sort of play with here. But thanks for being here.
absolutely. Oh no, this is exciting. I like talking about strengths always, but this one's so high on mine. So
What I will say right now, however, to those that are learners that are watching this is only going to be about 20 minutes or so. So it's not going to be an 8 hour dive in, but it will be a 20-minute unpacking and a chance for you to learn a little bit more so that you can then perhaps go out and dive in a little bit deeper if you want to. So with that being said, let me read what Clifton Strengths believes learner is themed at. People strong in the learner theme have a great desire to learn and want to continuously improve. In particular, the process of learning rather than the outcome excites them. And I think that's very important to sort of
yeah,
point out. So for me, I think that there is a if I was to define learner, I defined it as curious mental craving.
mm,
So there's a natural curiosity that comes through, but there's a mental craving to learn. So it's the curiosity of what's happening or what can I learn, but it's almost like even deeper, it's a craving. It's
mm,
this just even deeper than curiosity. So
yeah.
curious mental craving is how I would
I
describe
like
it.
that.
But
Yeah,
for you, let's dive right in. As you have learner, how would you describe it, Augusta? Or how have you
yeah.
described it?
Well, I love what you said. Curious. Yeah, that's a big word for sure. And that for me, again, learning my strengths really helped me understand myself and where I might even get frustrated with how I navigate the world. I'm like, oh, that's why I'm continuously seeking,
Yeah.
and get engaged in learning. And for me, it is that desire for improvement, that kind of growth minded focus, and it's a drive.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's not just an interest. It's a drive, and it lives deeply.
Yeah. As we always like to ask our guests, and since you are our guest, how early has this shown up in your life? Are you aware of sort of where the that drive of learning first appeared, or at least what you remember?
Oh, that's funny. Well, I was the kid who was in the library all the time. And even
Mm.
into college, I used to think it was soothing. It was just something about being surrounded by all those books. But I realized I preferred to be in the books in the library. And I would do that. I was always in the library. And
Yes.
remember those cards? Remember before the computers? I'm dating myself. And you had to look things up with the cards and the files, and then you had to go get
Yes.
the information, and then you collect that information. It's that process.
Yes.
Just I really, really, absolutely. I mean, I can even smell the library just thinking about it. Isn't that crazy? In the books, I loved it.
So
So
it
yeah,
has
it
been
was
with
it was
you
there
for
pretty
a
early.
very long time. Yeah.
It
The
has.
the what is the beauty of the learner? How has it been able to support you in whether it be your career or even as a mother? Where's learner been really powerful for you?
Oh, that's a great question. And immediately I just thought of growth oriented,
Mm,
because it has kept me continuously striving um, to learn more about myself
yeah.
in order to help others learn how they learn best and learn more about how they can become high performers or achieve their goals. And I just, yeah, that's what comes up. And even as a mother, I learned everything I could about learning to trust myself as a mother instead of,
Oh,
I started to read all the books and then realized, oh my gosh, no, I need to trust what comes up for me with all of this. So,
on the job
yeah.
training as learning was okay. That was still learning. I mean,
Oh,
you are still
absolutely.
learning, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. Where has it been something that has challenged you when potentially it's been dialed up a little high? Where have you seen that show
Mm.
up for you?
Well, it plays with input very interestingly in that way, because you had mentioned for learner, it's really about the process of
Yeah.
learning and not the result as much or the outcome. And that's where I can get in trouble, especially with my input hooked right into that is gathering information, constantly going through and manipulating. I did research for a long time also, just manipulating data or information and not getting to the result.
Yeah. Got it.
And that's what comes up for me because I can get stuck in that.
Right. The other thing too is I know you adore especially around coaching, if there's new workshops or there's a learning lab or
Yep.
there's a new book, is that that is something for you that I know you. I mean, you get so excited when something new comes up, but I know that you've said that also can be, it prevents you from maybe after you've gone through whatever it is that you've learned, not putting it into action, but it's sort of like, did I learn enough? Should I keep going? Right. And sort of
Right.
that little dance with our friend imposter syndrome sometimes pops up, right? Of, do I
Well,
have
that's
enough?
exactly that's
Especially with
exactly it.
input, right?
Oh my God, because that's it. They're totally hooked together
Yeah.
sometimes, and I think in order to really, I mean, interestingly enough, it's making me realize in order to sometimes really learn something, we have to take the action.
Yeah.
We can't just not just being book smart. And so, yeah, that's interesting. That just made me. I'm gonna have to
I
think
just
about
had that
that.
aha too. Yeah. Yes. That's why we
That's
do
my
this,
input,
right?
though. Yeah,
Yeah. Wait, will
absolutely.
you do me a favor? Because intellection, input, and learner, as you have learner and input, those three are often, people get a little confused and kicked around. Can we open up the discussion to talk a little bit about the differences, how you would describe input differently than learner? You did sort of say
Yeah.
that, but I want to give a very specific section to that. How would you describe input versus learner?
Yeah, well, input for me, that's a visual of um, just wanting more of something of information for me. If it's hooked in with my learner, and learning is I see it as a input as a coming in and learning as a process. And so I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just what came for me. And intellection is such a beautiful strength, with the ideas and the just being able to, it's again a process
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
of strength.
For me,
And
the intellection is the fuel comes from the thinking part, not just the
yep,
absorption of information, because intellection is
absolutely.
about
Yeah,
learning, but
yeah.
it is the noodling and the deliberating,
Taking the info.
deliberating and
Yeah,
yeah, taking it in and really, really going deep into a subject.
yeah.
And just that's the feeling, right? Again, it's not about the outcome so much as the process
Mhm.
of it. Now learning is also a process, and it's the process of learning, but not so much about needing to have an end result, or an action step. In collection for me is, sorry, input, I just
Mm.
Freudian slipped it,
Yeah.
it's about collecting, right? Collecting
Yeah,
ideas, things,
yeah.
people. Um, lots of times people with input will not only collect um, things for information for just in case, right? It's a
Mhm.
just in case um,
Yeah.
collection, but it's also they may physically have a lot of collections in their home.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
looking for, what they often cluster together. And again, it's the feeling of the curation and the collection for them that is so powerful, right? So there's
Well,
sort of the three. They all, I mean, we were just talking, I have a client that has all three.
that is incredible.
And That brain
I-
of hers works in
yeah.
amazing ways. And she'll be the first one to say, when all three are firing and I'm asked to do something by a boss or by someone, I'll often need more than they can give me or want to give me to get started. And I've learned, this is from her words,
Mhm.
I've learned that I need a little like context. I need to gather a bit to feel ready. And I
Yeah.
get excited realizing that I am going to learn something new. That's how she sort of gets out of the you haven't given me enough information. I haven't been able to get enough, is I'm going to
Yeah.
go find it. But
Yeah.
it's going to delay me turning it right around. And so she's now she has the language. She's able to say, FYI, I'm going to need a bit of time on the research,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but you'll get it, and you'll get it even better than you would. So if you'll give me those extra 5 hours or next day or whatever it is. And so
Mm.
again, that's the beauty of our strengths, right? Is understanding so that you can say to somebody, I love you asking me to have you get that to you in an hour. However, you know, I myself am going to go through a process of how best to do this, and it's going to include
Yeah.
some learning. It's going to if you have learner or input, it may be gathering. So
Gathering. Yeah.
it's kind of a fun thing for people to be able to use to help others understand their drive.
Absolutely. And I'm just, thinking about too, sometimes learner, they talk about, work environments that are really, you're best in an environment that's very dynamic and it's not just monotonous. Oh, there's a loud train going by. Excuse me. I don't know if y'all
It's
can hear
okay.
that.
The world
Um,
keeps moving, right?
the
The world keeps
world is
moving.
going by. Um, and I can see that for me, but with that intellection also in her strengths
Yeah.
profile, she might need more time.
Right.
It's not just the short projects because she's got to spend the time
Yes.
deciphering in her own mind. So, we can have learner as a strength and based on, again, we always say this, based on your constellation of four other, strengths, it's going to show up in a
Right.
different way. And
Right.
it's just the beauty of it.
Yeah. Yeah. As a leader with learner, it's an interesting
Mm,
thing because it sometimes can get in the way of folks who are leading, especially if they've just become a leader. Um, Learning often is very hands-on, can be very hands-on for something. And with
mhm.
leadership is not as much about being in the weeds with the project, but really moving whatever obstacle may be in the person's way to get into the weeds. And so I think I've noticed with folks that have learner as leaders, they are challenged to step back a little bit more in a project or in a process
Mm,
because they
mhm.
enjoy
Yeah.
being a part of that project because they know they're going to learn something, right? So something to be aware of
Yeah.
that could be an opportunity for you to the best thing that you can do then as a learner leader is
Mhm.
learn to be a leader, right?
Yeah.
Not to be the technician of whatever's happening in the project or what you're asking of others to do. Allow them to learn.
Yeah.
um, but that is often a thing where they may put their hand in a little bit more, and it's not because it's a micromanagement
Yeah.
side.
Absolutely.
It's as you said, it's a drive
That
to,
real
I want to
drive.
learn too. I want to I
Yeah.
want to see what works and doesn't work. I want to be a part of this experiment. So that's something to
Yeah.
be super aware of.
Yeah. Allowing the others to take the
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. For sure.
Absolutely.
When you think about learner, what would you want someone in your life to know about learner? Learner specifically, if you think about that, you meet somebody new or you go to work for somebody new, what's important for them to know about learner?
There is this constant striving for, I guess from going from not ignorance, but something new to competence, and then being allowed to go on and find something else. I think
Yeah.
it's not, again, it's not being involved in something that is monotonous or repetitive, but it's what's exciting is that that learning process. And so, but it also could show up in a way that um, I know personally in my personal life can be a not a detriment, but people can say, "Oh, you think, how do you learn so much about everything? You become the expert on it." And it's really not that I want to be the expert as much as
Ah,
I just enjoying the getting to that competence.
that is such a great, I think, super important point to make. It's not that the
Mhm,
person's trying to be the smartest,
mhm,
because again, learner is more about the process of learning and
mhm.
the enjoyment of it versus I have to know it all.
Yeah, I have to get to that one outcome
Yeah.
of being the expert. And I know there's some other strengths where that shines more. But for learner, it's not that, but there's a lot of knowledge about a lot of things,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
And
constant
and that's
striving.
a great also a delineation between intellection and learner
Exactly, the
is that
intellection.
it may be a little broader in terms of what you know about because
Yeah,
of the enjoyment of learning new, the process of learning
yeah,
versus intellection that wants to go really, really deep into
yeah,
something.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and it's not that learner doesn't want to go deep. They will if a subject really does something for them, but the joy doesn't come from the depth. The joy comes from the process,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I hope that
yeah,
makes sense. Made
yeah.
sense in my little pea brain. So yeah. Yeah. I love it. Learner. Love it. Love it. Um, anything else that we want to share about learner in terms of highs and lows, things to be aware of, how best
Mm,
to express it? Or, oh, let's do this. I know you're in a situation, you have a client who has a situation where they're not able to use their learner at work, or maybe they're belittled for it at home or in a
mm.
surroundings. Any suggestions on sort of how they may, it may not be that it's both places they're not able to do it. Maybe it's one or the other. But what do you suggest for somebody with learner?
Well, I think, if the work environment is such that it's not helping them utilize that strength, which and sometimes that does happen, is what can you do outside of your home life or your work life? Like, where can you get involved where you're in a community learning center, or taking courses? How can you feed that? It is
Yes.
important always to, we want to feed those all of our strengths, because they're what energize us and elevate our enjoyment of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So where can
Absolutely.
you find and feed that strength?
So I have a friend right now who, because of while we're recording this, it's during an interesting economic time during the
Mhm.
global pandemic, and her business is not quite where she wants it to be, and she spent her learner um, trying to get it more stabilized to what she can do, but it because of the kind of job she has, she can't make a change. There's no
Mhm.
more pivoting she can do. So I think she was craving some learning, and she just let me know the other day that she's going to learn about the stock market because it is something that she had never
Mm.
really understood. And this is a brilliant woman, but she just had never, what does it mean to do a short? What does it mean to, all of these terms that I think get kicked around that some people may know, but most humans really don't understand. And so she's diving in and
Mhm.
learning. And with
Exactly.
every sort of little thing that she unlocks, I can see her energy is shifting. Interestingly enough,
Yeah.
I think it's shifting and helping her, even though understanding the stock market has nothing to do with the kind of business that she owns, her energy is shifting, and I think it's picking
Yeah.
her up. And perhaps she's going to walk into her store, look around and see things differently because she has a bump of fuel. Because as we know,
Yeah.
strengths fuel us. So it's interesting
Yeah.
because she's
Absolutely.
using learner about something completely different, but we know that it's bleeding into just how she's showing up.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was speaking to when I said, how it when our strengths aren't fed, and our jobs always, there are times, like you said, where, it's just not, we can't utilize a strength or our strengths for whatever reason. And so where can you look outside of that, and engage in that, because it does, it changes the quality of our life when we're fed like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the last things that I know in working with you or working with my friend who's a learner is one of the ways that I can support you is reminding you that more than likely you do have enough to be able to move forward. You do have enough
Mm.
information. Um, to
Where's my input too? That's my
yeah, to
problem.
sort of make that to make a decision to, and it's similar to deliberative because I think
Mm.
deliberative gathers information so that they can make decisions. And it's very methodical on how they make a decision. And I do know that for learners, whether they're about to go on stage to speak, what may be coming up for them is, I don't know enough about this to speak on it. And that's
Mm.
that I'm not ready yet, right? I'm not
Yes.
ready yet. And I think what I can say to learners out there is more than likely, you're more than ready
Yeah.
than you think you are to go try something new or to um yeah to be out in the world and doing whatever you're doing. You
Well,
probably do know enough. Yeah.
and that's exactly it, and that's where taking that action, or actually doing whatever it is that you might be learning about, will also help you learn how to get better or achieve more at it. So
Learn to
take the
learn.
action.
Yes.
Mhm.
Augusta, I thank you for this. I thank you for your honesty and openness. I know that this is I have a few strengths of my own that sometimes they wind up showing up more high than low in terms of
Yeah.
the strength style and get in my way a little bit more. And I know that this is a superpower for you because as you just so gently swept over, you did research. You were in a scientific based operations, and this
Yeah.
is part of what made you successful, right? As well as input and all the strategic and all the other things that kind of come through. But that we are, the more we become aware of our strengths, the more we truly can control the highs and lows of them and understanding how to apply them. So
Absolutely.
thank you for this
Absolutely.
today. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Super fun.
As always, like you said, you have a constellation that is specific to you.
Mhm.
There's a pretty good chance that there's, you know, barely going to be somebody with your top three that you
Yeah.
even know, much less your same five. And how your five shows up may be different than somebody else's five with the same cadence and number. So what we say is that this is an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about your strengths, but not in lieu of working with a coach who is aware of Clifton strengths and can help you understand how the dynamics between the themes can become your strengths and how the highs and lows, and if there's one that is challenging another. So please don't please, I know the learners out there will probably absolutely be the first ones to sign up for coaching because they do want to learn more about this. But we just say it's not a bad thing to make sure that you do have an outside perspective about how that may be showing up. So,
Mm.
with that being said, that is Clifton Strengths Unpacked Learner. And I couldn't have been more excited to do that with you today and learn a little bit more
Thank
about
you,
you
Amy.
as well.
Thank you, Amy. That's always love talking about these.
Love it. I love it. We'll see you on the next one.